Hey guys, I have upcoming shows in Jersey, Connecticut, Tokyo, Philly, New York, Toronto, North Carolina, and more. Listen to the very end for the upcoming events or check ColtCabana.com for all details. Sounds good. I'll see you there. Enjoy the show.
This is The Art of Wrestling with professional wrestler Colt Cabana.
All right, how you guys doing? Come on in, sit down, let's do it. Nostrovia. It's about the extent of the Russian that I picked up this week. You're about to listen to The Art of Wrestling, a professional wrestling podcast. It's a life podcast. It's a personal journal. It's an entry into the minds and souls, the hearts and lives of the people involved in the world of professional wrestling. I am your host. My name is Colt Cabana. I am Russian. I am a Ruski. I am a Commodore. That may not be a Russian thing. That may be a video game system from my childhood. I'm also putting on a hell of a podcast over here. I'm also king of the puns. Most importantly, though, I am a professional wrestler, and I am sitting here live in the studio apartment in Chicago, Illinois. Before I go any further, this is a fan-supported and listener-supported podcast supported by people just like you. We give it to you free of charge every single Thursday. ColtCabana.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcast from. A couple great ways that you can support, rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. Tell a friend. Let that algorithm grow. Vine some people. Snapchat some people. Text some people. Let them know about this podcast. Of course, the best way to do it monetarily, ColtMerch.com and DigitalColt.com. T-shirts, buttons, pictures, posters, DVDs, digital downloads, sweet-ass retro VHS t-shirts, and Marty and I have done some commentary to some wrestling movies that you will enjoy. Available, ColtMerch.com and DigitalColt.com. Enter Long Ho here if you are excited for Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He knows how to ham it up. Hacksaw is a ham. He should have been Hamsaw Jim Duggan. He's on the show. I'm going to get into that in a second, though. I do want to let you know I do have a live podcast coming up for Alpha One Wrestling in Toronto, November 15th. I enjoy doing them so much in Edinburgh. We're going to do one before the show in Toronto. Also working on a night before Thanksgiving in Chicago, if that excites you. Going to a meeting today, right as I finish this, to try to hammer out the final details on that. Otherwise, let's talk about Russia or Jim Duggan. Russia or Jim Duggan. What about both? Nope, I'll talk about Jim Duggan first. Excited to have him on. Again, this is a situation where I don't know if Jim Duggan knows what podcasts are. I know he knows what podcasts are. He was on the live one. He was so good on a live one in Miami, but that was kind of part of the deal with that con, is that some of those guys would come on and do the podcast. Greg the Hammer Valentine was a great one. I want to get him back on the show too. So Jim, he did that thing with me, and then the internet was like, hey, Jim, you were great on it. And then he came back to me. He was like, hey, people really liked me on your podcast. And I was like, oh, Jim, let's do one where we sit down, just you and I. And he's like, yeah, for sure. And that's how magic is done. He's a guy who I've been on shows with for years. He's a guy who I wrestled on Sunday Night Heat years ago. I don't expect you to know that I did, but this is one of those things when you're on so many shows with a guy for so long, eventually you build up a little friendship, you build up a rapport, even though obviously there's a difference in age and experience. When you're around dudes enough, that's just what kind of happens. I think a lot of people can pick up that, well, you'll get the tone of this conversation. It's fun. It's a fun conversation, but he's one of these guys I'm envious. I hope to be in the situation that he's in. He's later in his life, still wrestling, still getting in there, loves it, man. He still enjoys it. He loves doing it. He's a kid at heart. He's honestly a kid at heart, which makes me feel good knowing that when I'm, up there and at his age, I assume I'll still be goofy, a goofball, just like him. So it's good to know that there's people like that. I think that's wrestling minded. That's what wrestling does to you. There was once a theory that you stay the age that you entered wrestling in. So if you got into wrestling at 30, you're 30 for the rest of your life. Like me, if you got in at 18, you just act like an 18-year-old for the rest of your life. And I definitely see that happening with myself. I don't think many things have changed. I do worry about bills and money a little bit, but for the most part, 18 on the mind. So Duggan on the show. We get into it. Fun chat. You'll enjoy it. I was in Russia this week. I told some normal civilian friends of mine, and they're just like, wait, you just went for 3 days? I was like, yeah, went for 3 days. Flew on a Friday, landed on a Saturday, went out in St. Petersburg on a Saturday night, woke up Sunday morning, went to the building, had a show, had a good time, went out again in St. Petersburg Sunday night, 2 hours sleep, Monday morning on a flight back to Copenhagen, back to Chicago, back to normal life. It's not lost on me what a wonderful experience it is to be brought in for one show. And usually I'll go in hoping that maybe there's 10 people who know who I am. And the promotion, these guys, Northern Storm, did a great job of hype videos. And I noticed on a lot of the talents' Instagrams and Twitters, it was, hey, Colt Cabana's coming. We're excited. Even so, you never know how much it translates in another country, especially another country that doesn't speak my language, the language that I speak. But I will notice a couple of things when I got there. One thing I noticed is all of the wrestlers love independent wrestling. Like, sure, people are influenced by WWE and they like WWE, but you could just tell the influence that groups like PWG and ROH and Chikara has and have on these guys. It makes sense. The internet is so available. It's so easy to get this information, and it really helps the battlefield even out just a little bit. So when I was there and I performed and I did my match and I wrestled a very talented wrestler named Serge White over there, I had a good time. I did my typical shtick. It's like I brought the stand-up comedy show to Russia, and again, it's just like Japan. I didn't speak very much English. I learned my one Russian phrase that got a laugh from everybody. Raslapsia, raslapsia. I forgot it already. That means, whoa, relax. When I said that to the referee after I made him touch my butt, I think, got a real big laugh. Also, I got a standing ovation for taking away a girl's cell phone while texting during my match, and I put it by the bellkeeper, and I gave her a timeout. Standing ovation. It was amazing. Also, as I left, it was this weird moment of like turning around and seeing like everybody really happy and smiling and clapping for me. And I know that's like a normal thing. And usually I don't get caught up in that, but it was a weird moment of like, I'm in Russia, I'm turning around to say goodbye to these people who just watched me perform for 20, 25 minutes, and it hit me for a second, which is nice, which means I still, there's still a passion there, and I don't have like this cold heart that so many performers have. Like I really got something out of that moment. It was a great experience. I can't believe I went to Russia to wrestle for one day. I've been invited back to Moscow, and I'm excited for that venture and journey with my new friends of Russia. I made new friends out there. Wrestling, man, it's the coolest. What an experience. What a life. On to next week when we do it all again. Song of the Week this week is brought to you by Bombas Socks. That's right, just got a 4-pack in the mail. Got a wedding coming up, and these are going to be my wedding socks. That's true. They're so good. Bombas is a great sponsor. Go to bombas.com/lowercase-colt and get 20% off. Let's talk about these socks. Athletic leisure socks, re-engineered to look, feel, and perform better. They got seamless toes. They got rid of the bumps that are on most of the socks. Blister tabs, performance footbed, stay-up technology, so they don't fall down. Honeycomb support system. Running them, walking them, jogging them, wrestle in them. They do it all. They are great socks. Grab them in black, navy, gray, and white. Most importantly, Bombas donates a pair of socks for each pair that you buy, and they've donated over 300,000 pairs. Add some more to that list. Do something good for the world. Do something good for yourself and your feet. If you don't love them, they got 100% happiness guaranteed. That means they'll refund your purchase. Go to bombas.com/lowercase-colt and get 20% off and make your feet happy. The song this week is by a band called Racecard, at Racecard on Twitter, racecardband.com online. The song makes sense. It's called Jim Duggan. I hope you can figure that one out. Enjoy it, and we'll be back with Jim Duggan.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey guys, your season-long fantasy football team may be doing strong, but you don't have to wait until week 16 to get paid. Put your fantasy skills to test every week this season at DraftKings.com, America's favorite one-week fantasy football site. One-week fantasy means no season-long commitments. You got an injured player? Fine, no problem. It's basically a new season every week. You're never stuck with the same players. DraftKings is crowning a new millionaire every week this season. Turn your love of football into a life-changing payday. Just pick your players, pile up the points, and pick up your cash. That's it. You've never experienced football like this before. This isn't fantasy as usual. It's DraftKings. It's the big time. Head to DraftKings.com now and use my promo code WRESTLE to play for free for a shot at $1 million in this week's Millionaire Maker event. Enter WRESTLE for free entry now only at DraftKings.com. DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com. Hello, Mr. Duggan.
Well, brother, you know the first thing Colt the Hacksaw's got to do is give a big ho. Kind of fires me up, gets the blood flowing at this stage.
I mean, I've seen at this the blood. Okay, that was a little. You're full of a lot of those, aren't you?
Well, I like to have fun. I do. Yeah, that's. I think that's one thing about Legend House. A lot of the folks saw a different side of me than my character in the ring, and yeah, I like to have a good time.
Yeah, but your character in the ring was always kind of fun-loving, was he not?
Pretty much, yeah. I think, of course, back in the day, it's, in Mid-South and stuff, was a lot of chop and meat. Me and Buzz Sawyer out there, one-man gang, beating the hell out of each other. Everything was really pretty live. You just tried not to hit in the X-ring. Everything else was pretty good. But it's funny that my character evolved to when I was the king of wrestling for the WWF. I had the cape, the crown, the flag, the board, the thumb, the tongue, the hoe, and the crossed eyes. And I'd come back, and Strongbow's like, Hacksaw, you want to be a little more serious in the ring? Like, seriously, you got me carrying all this shit down to the ring. And
you didn't think about that, though, in terms of, I mean, that back then it was and now even more today, it's a marketing machine.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Foam. What did you have? Foam. Yeah, I had
foam
a foam
2x4s were big. When I went back to the WWE, because obviously the WWF was my heyday, but I was great because I went back to the WWE under a talent contract, so I got to wrestle DiBiase's kid, Dusty's kid, Orton's kid. I beat up the old man, then I beat up the kids.
Right.
There's something I was pretty proud about.
Hey, you got me in a velocity match. Let's not forget about.
Yeah.
You must have done so many. You must have wrestled so many people.
Yeah. Was that a shot, brother?
No. I'm just like,
I got feelings too,
But there's so many guys who I think, and not. I don't think anyone. I don't. Listen. I don't expect you to even remember that match. But I'm just saying, there's so many guys that probably you wrestled 10 years ago, 15 years ago, who are now like on top of the industry, or in the top of their game or whatnot. Well, and she probably did, it was just a match for her.
Well, just like The Rock, I wrestled his granddad, I wrestled his dad. Never had an opportunity to wrestle The Rock, though. But I've been around a while, but I joke, I say Flair and Hogan still call me kid. So
there you go.
As long as they stick around. And Jake says he's younger than me. But I want to see a birth certificate, Roberts.
Where did you wrestle Chief Peter Maivia?
Oh, in Hawaii. Yeah. I broke in Dallas with Fritz. And Gino Hernandez took me under his wing. And Gary Hart gave me my first pair of trunks. It's Big Jim Duggan with short hair and clean shaven. I had red and black trunks that Gary gave me. And I wore.
Where did he get those from? Those were just his.
Who knows where they came from back? There might have been a rib on me.
I was going to say there's probably like a lost and found of just Dallas wrestlers.
Something, but of course back then it was very closed business, and I didn't realize coming out of a football background where it was almost like a privileged background. College football in Texas in the 70s, it was unbelievable. Me and Gene Okerlund always said, Hacksaw took a cut and pay to leave SMU and go to the Atlanta Falcons, But
hey, was that so? College, I don't know, anything you could divulge on? Is that a thing?
I think back then everybody. I was highly recruited out of high school. I won the New York State High School Wrestling Championship my senior year. And the guy I beat went on to win the Pan Am Games, so I'm pretty proud about that. My shot put record from 1973 still stands today.
Wow.
I said, what a bunch of wimps up there. And football was my main sport, so I wanted to go to Ohio State with Woody Hayes, but the offensive line coach from SMU came up and got to know my folks. And I came back from Ohio State. Am I going to be a Buckeye? And my mom's like, Jimmy, come here. You'll be a number. And I went to SMU, and I had a great career down there.
So you went there just because your mom and dad wanted you to go there?
Well, it was not only. I mean, it was a great place to. I know it was a good opportunity for me. You know, Southwest Conference was strong back then. I assumed I'd be playing pro football for 20 years. You know,
just wherever you went then.
Right. Yeah. So but I went down there. I was able to start as a freshman. I was a captain my senior year. I got the Mike Kelsey Award for 110% effort. It was all conference. And then got picked up with the Falcons. I got hurt during training camp. I had 2 major knee surgeries my rookie year. Probably, I came back. Could have maybe taken it as a career and injury. Who knows? But anyway, got cut. I went up to Canada with the Toronto Argonauts. I played a while up there with them. And when they cut me, I went back to Glens Falls, where I'm from. And my dad knew Arnie Skolin. My dad's like, hey, my kid.
Well, how do you know Arnie Skolin?
Well, my dad was the chief of police in Glens Falls, and he was a fixture in upstate New York. He was a cop for 50 years, chief for 20-something. Everybody knew him as chief.
So from shenanigans of wrestling, do you think, like from Arnie?
Well, I'm sure.
Trying to get out of stuff.
I mean, not as.
Sorry.
But no, it's just doing business. I mean, wrestling. There's a lot of business in town, and obviously you want to know the chief of police,
right?
So anyway, I went down there. I wrestled Moose Borowski at the Glens Falls Civic Center.
Wait, hold on. Where did you just?
Well, I broke in Dallas.
Yeah.
And I hit the ropes down there, and I had a few matches.
But your dad knew Arnold Skolin.
Right.
And said...
My kid wrestles, and Arnie said, we'll bring him down to the show.
But Arnold... Hold on. So Arnold said, come down to Dallas to train?
No. I had already trained in Dallas.
Okay.
I trained in Dallas. After the Falcons cut me, boom. And
the Falcons and then Canada cut you.
And then I went up to Canada. And then in between that time, I was back and forth at Dallas and stuff. But finally, I'm back up in Glens Falls. And
as a trained wrestler?
Well, I hit the ropes a few times.
Okay.
Big Jim Duggan with my short hair and red and black trunks. And so I went down there, and, I was a relatively big guy down there. And, of course, in my hometown, I got a huge pop, which was a regular stop for the WWF. So they said, I should bring him to TV. So I came down to TV, and I worked with Angelo Mosca and Ken Patera and Slaughter. The first thing I tried to get out of was a Cobra Clutch. Mm-hmm. And
so what were you doing, like, I guess as they would call it, enhancement work? Or?
Yeah, I was getting squashed every night, man. Yeah. Hogan squashed me one night, man, yeah.
That was pre-Rocky Hogan.
Yeah, and I was Big Jim Duggan with and I added a gold bathrobe, so
Did you buy it before, like, knowing you were going to do a robe? Or?
No, I'm just playing it by ear, right?
Okay.
So I got my red and black trunks, and I put a gold bathrobe on.
Which was just home? At home?
Yeah, it was a regular gold bathrobe. Okay. And so Skolin and Vince Sr., they called me in the office at TV in Allentown. And he's a kid. He says, you might have a future, but come up with something better than Big Jim and get rid of that gold bathrobe.
But this is my meal ticket, the gold bathrobe.
Yeah. So they said, we're going to send you out to learn the business. And I'm like, where are you going to send me? And they're like, Hawaii.
Oh, God.
So I went to Hawaii, and over there I was the convict. And I wore a mask, and I put little C's on my mask for the convict, which I thought was pretty cool, And
who? So you get to Hawaii. Who gives you a ticket? Do you
WWF gave me.
So right, you're like the original developmental wrestler.
I don't know if I ever looked at it that way. I'm sure they probably sent people around before, but yeah, they sent me out to.
So they buy your ticket over there. You get there. Who goes? You're going to be the convict.
I think it was the high chief, because I come in, I'm relatively a babyface guy over there. Then all the white guys, all the Hollies are the heels, all the island boys. Yeah, Holly is a derogatory term for a white you are. Stinking Holly.
What do you think that's from? Bob Holly? Or Buddy Holly?
No. Bob Holly. That's probably long before that.
Yeah,
but I'm sure there's something to it. But
Hollywood?
Yeah, they're like, well, put a mask on, because I'm wrestling men. Mm-hmm. And I'm a relatively babyface kid, as much babyface as Hacksaw can be. Yeah. So I put the C's on the mask, and the fans are like, why'd you put those ears on your mask? I said, they're not ears, they're C's for the convict, damn it, So probably I met, one of my best friends in my life, Haku Ming, over there, 35 years ago.
He was a kid then.
Yeah, we both were, right?
Right.
But it was a great time in life. We lived in the Chateau Blue. I took my wife over there years later. She wouldn't even get out of the car. It was done in Ala Moana, not right in Honolulu.
But I can imagine you weren't big dude, all right, straight out of football. You weren't worried about any trouble, were you?
Well, actually, the only place I ever got knocked out in my whole life was in Pearl City, Hawaii, as a heel. I'd never been in a wrestling riot, which are pretty common. Little did I know, I'm out of the NFL.
This is during
as the convict,
okay.
Right? And so they have a fight finish, and I run down. I think it was Steve Alfie. I tripped Steve Alfie, boom, and the other Holly got on top. 1, 2, 3, we got the win. We jumped out. Well, there's about 100 people in the Pearl Harbor at the show, with 90 of them are Samoans.
Yeah.
And here they come. So the first big, I'm right out of the NFL. I'm like, okay, boys, let's go. First big Samoan come up, I rack him, boom. He goes, I look at my hand, I'm like, shoot, these usually work. And they were like fire ants. They were all over me, man. And somebody hit me with a chair and knocked me out.
Just
dead like a fish. They were all around me, putting the boots to me. Haku came out, dragged me back to the dressing room. So now they got me in the dressing room, and I'm sitting there, blood's pouring out of my mask, of course. And all my buddies are sitting around me, Pete Austin, Mike Masters, who still wrestles up in the Indies in Jersey. And anyway, they all pull my mask off. They all go, ooh. I'm like, well, how bad can it be, fellas? Come on, But I learned an important lesson there. You don't fight the crowd. You fight your way through the crowd. And that had served me, because back in the old days, it wasn't sports entertainment. With Bill Watts, you think it's fake? You sign the waiver. You come up in the ring with us, and we'll show you if it's fake or not. And the fans, they would cut your tires. A lot of guys got stabbed, or you get sprayed. That's actually where the 2x4 came from. I'll give you a quick rundown. I went from Hawaii back to New York. I didn't know what I was doing. I went to Georgia Championship Wrestling. That's where I wrestled DiBiase. First, that tells the story how he got out in the tag team. We tied up. He said, F you, and pushed off and hit Wildfire. He said, he's all yours, Tommy. I'm like, come on, let's go. Let's wrestle. I'm state champ.
Right. No. He backed off.
Oh, my God. I was so stiff. But then Ole Anderson and NWA came down and took over Georgia. I was living with my best friend then. Was Terry Gordy.
Okay.
At the Falcon Rest, another great hotel. But when they took over, I didn't get along with Ole Anderson, so I went to
I think you're the only one.
Yeah.
From the stories I hear.
Yeah, everybody's an individual.
Fair enough.
But, I went down to Pensacola, and I was working down there. I went to Wildman Duggan. I wore a fur with chains on it, and there's pictures with me,
And where? Okay, so I'd like to know where Wildman Duggan came from. Just driving down,
drinking whiskey with Gordy. Yeah.
But obviously, you have to come up with you have to come up with that name. You have to come up with the idea of chains and fur. Is it just a drinking session and it comes up one day, or someone suggested?
I really don't know where it came from. I know I still got the fur with the chains on it. That picture is. You see it sometimes in conventions. People find it.
Really?
It's out there.
Do they want the Wildman Duggan autograph?
I was my first trip to Japan where I worked with Inoki. I was Wildman Duggan with a fur on and everything. And I'm over there working Inoki. But I'm down in Pensacola, living on the beach. I had a $500 a week guarantee for Fuller's. I was living with a hot little stripper, man. It was a good time in the business. And Bruiser Brody and Buck Robley I met in Atlanta. And when Ole came in, they went to San Antonio. And Buck calls me, and he's like, we got a spot with Brody over here. He says, come on over. I'm like, well, things are going pretty good here in Pensacola, Buck. So Brody called me. He says, hey, get your ass over here.
So what did he want? He wanted to tag with you?
No, I worked against him.
We wanted to work. Okay. Well, it's kind of the same shtick, no?
Learned a lot from Brody.
Okay.
I've never been to Puerto Rico in kind of honor of Big Bruce. He was instrumental in my career. That's where the 2x4 came. That's where this whole story comes from. So I went to San Antonio. That's where I became Hacksaw, in San Antonio. And
is that the Blanchards?
With Joe Blanchard.
Okay.
Yeah. But Buck Robley and Brody and myself came up with a Hacksaw deal. And so I'm in the back. I was working with Brody, and he was a babyface, and I was the heel. So people hated you. Just getting back and forth to the ring was dangerous. They're kicking you and punching you. You're out in Lubbock, Texas. They wanted my hide. So I'm sitting in the back covered with loogies and bruises, and Brody comes in. He goes, Duggan, if you carry something to the ring, carry something you can use. Forget those feathered boas and sequin robes. And I'm like, here's a piece of wood.
Yeah.
And I picked the wood up. I come out yelling, yelling with that piece of wood. It's like parting the Red Sea. Then people scattered. I got to the ring. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. Better than
back out the other way. It was great.
better than a gold bathrobe to knock them off.
Yeah. As always, was traveling with my buddy Jake in the day. We'd always go into an arena. I said, can somebody find me a 2x4 and get him a 10-foot python?
Yeah, right.
It was a great gimmick to have.
And then I think we said on the live one that you did you try to get an eagle? Was that right? Or
no, that was Bobby Heenan. Oh, man, we were doing that primetime show. Was Vince, Bobby and Kurt, and me and Hillbilly, like a counterpoint deal.
Oh, when they had the table. I remember that, yes.
And, so we're sitting here, and Heenan's like, Vince, Duggan needs an eagle.
Was this on the air, or is this just as the camera?
I think it was just as the camera's off, which is even worse.
Right.
And I'm looking at Bobby like, he goes, yeah, because and then I had the cape, the crown, the flag, the board, the thumb, the tongue, the whole crown. And he's like, and he needs an eagle. And, I'm thinking, Vince will get you an eagle as a rib.
All right.
Just to have something else to carry.
There was an interesting time around that time. Did he love animals, or did he just see money in animals?
Who knows?
Did you ever break that down with everyone?
Yeah, I'm never an office guy. Even with Mid-South.
But even on the road, let's say you're on the road with the boys, and you're on the road with Jake's got a snake, and Steamboat's got an iguana,
right.
and Coco's got
the bulldogs.
Yeah, there never was like, guys, what's the story with all these animals?
I think everybody's too busy partying back then. Yeah. And they were partying with the poor Matilda got more stuff shot in her ass than anybody.
It's unbelievable. Today that'd be nuts. Huh? I don't think
well, of course, PETA would be all over it.
Yeah. You said Haku, you're a good buddy right away, and I mean the stories are kind of infamous.
Yeah. About
him just being the toughest man ever, or
very, if not. I mean, the dressing room is a snake pit of tough guys. There's very few walks in the park in there. And it's kind of like the superpowers. It's mad, mutually assured destruction. No way you're going to fight one of those guys in there and walk out clean. It's going to be a battle, and both people are going to get hurt. But Haku is known as probably, if not the toughest, one of the top 2 or 3.
Is that just from before wrestling?
Well, I think a lot outside of wrestling. I mean, there was a lot of bar fights. Cops, would throw you out of town. Nobody would sue you. It was a different time, and I always said, Haku was an asshole magnet. If there was a jack off in the bar, they'd come right up to Haku,
Oh.
And another guy who, no secret, me and Sean aren't real close, Shawn Michaels. But I respect Sean as a worker, and I always felt for him at a bar because Sean would walk in the bar, and every chick in the place would go to him, and every guy'd be like, "I'm going to kick his ass." I'm like, "It's your girl, it's not Sean."
Right. And there was a time when he was all about that, so he probably instantly.
Well, everybody. Well, she would.
Right.
Yeah. It was the '80s, brother.
You've said before that you weren't really a wrestling fan coming into before it all came in. So I'm kind of curious. Because nowadays, as I say, I'm kind of curious, when it did, I guess, why that option came to you, and did you have a memory of it hitting you and being like, man, I really, really like this, or I get why all these guys love this or wanted to get into it.
Well, I didn't understand. It took me years to understand it. That's why I think guys that are, I always say that second generation guys, Jake, Ted, Kurt, Orton, guys that grew up in the business are always a little more polished. They understand the business a little bit better. And I didn't have a clue. Like I said, Johnny Rods and Jose Estrada, they hated working with me. A good story wrestling, too. Even when I got to Mid-South, I was still pretty stiff and really didn't know what I was doing and not really taking care of the other guy, Brock Lesnar-like.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm wrestling with 2, and I hit him. He's got that white mask on, and boom, I punch him, and there's a little red dot. And the dot keeps getting bigger and bigger. Pretty soon his whole mask is all blood, So I saw him not long ago at the a convention, and I went up to him. I said, it's gone full circle. Now I'm getting the young guys are beating the hell out of me.
Yeah. Did you find, why, almost not why were you allowed, but they kept you in, or obviously it was because of Vince Sr. wanting to mold you to eventually be something? Because that's it. Or was it just that you were so big that like they didn't weasel you out of wrestling? Because could that not be done in that era?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very easily.
Right?
Yeah. I don't know. Tell you the truth. I was very lucky. People, that's a lot of young guys on the indie circuit, and the fans will say, what's it take to make it in the WWE? There's nothing you can do to get into the WWE. You have to be in the right place at the right time with the gimmick that they're looking for, or the look that they're looking for. It's not like football where you run a 4 flat 40 bench press 500 pounds.
It's all subjective, ain't it? As opposed to
so it's different. I tell folks, there's 1,500 NFL football players, 1,000 NBA basketball players. There's maybe 120 wrestlers making a living wrestling. It's television. It's more competitive than sports.
So where did it click for you that like
Mid-South?
Mid-South.
Yeah.
And you started to understand
working with Ted. We were the Rat Pack. Me, Ted, and Matt Bourne were heels, and just spending time with Ted and starting to. Of course, I've been around and have wrestled quite a bit and some big shows and stuff. And didn't really feel like, and then when the door opened up to me, I'm like,
yeah,
I get it.
It hit you. It hit you. And so I kind of want to get into like mentally, because a lot of this is about like my struggles. Not my, but like our struggles as wrestlers getting in. Like, did you feel? Was there moments getting into wrestling like you felt maybe this was going to be a failure or this wasn't going to work out?
Well, my family was very conservative. My dad was chief of police. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. I have 3 older sisters. One was a judge. My family's very conservative. They were really concerned about me becoming a wrestler. When I first came home with long hair and a beard, my sisters cried. Jimmy, what's happened to you?
Yeah.
I'm trying to make a living.
But you like right away, did you see that this was going to be like a long term? Because you said you thought you were going to do 20 years in the NFL.
Right.
Then all of a sudden you go to Dallas where you're like, oh, I'll do 20 years on the wrestling circuit.
No, I didn't know if I would make it. And of course, in the beginning, you're not making any money. I had an old beat-up car. I drive the boys around in. Drove Slaughter, Hanson, Stan, and I became good buddies. But my family said if I'm not starting to make money in 4 years, go ahead. Before 5 years, I'd get out of it.
So you gave yourself a timeline.
Yeah.
Kind of like a college again almost, right?
Yeah, and on-the-job training.
Yeah.
And I said if I'd not made it by 5 years, I'd get out of it.
I remember when I was 23 working at a school as a teacher, still I'd been wrestling 5 years at that point. I said if I'm not doing something big at 30, I'd go find a real job.
Find something.
I go just to become a teacher, whatever. And like when I got to 30, I don't know what was successful and what wasn't. I was making money, but it's not like I was like, taking the world on. Yeah. So the 4 year point came.
Yeah, and see, I started relatively late, where I was working full time. I was probably 25 years old. Georgia was my first full-time territory because, New York, I'd work a little bit. I'd do a few jobs. Great story about my first Boston Garden appearance. Of course, I grew up in upstate New York, Boston Garden, the old Garden, but after the Garden, I'm off for like 2 weeks. So me and my high school friends are going to drive to Florida. So we just for vacation,
right.
A bunch of young
Spring
guys,
break,
nothing
whatever.
to do, right?
Yeah.
And so, boom, we drive over the Garden. Now we find the Garden, but you can't find the way in for the wrestlers. So I'm driving around now. It's getting later and later. Now it's late as shit. We can't find a way in the building. Finally, we pull in the building. We jump out. I grab my bag. I run in. Everybody's sitting there. Arnie, gee, come on, geez. He had the cigar. I open my bag. It's all my shit for Florida, not my boots.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, I run out and I grabbed the guy. I said, you got a page for my buddy. He goes, what's his name? I said, John Kelly. He goes, we're in Boston. I said, John Kelly, I'm going to have 150 people show up down here, right? But luck of the draw, they were getting beer close to where we came in. I saw them and made the show.
And they ran home, and then you lost to...
Well, I got out to...
You lost to Big John Studd in 2 seconds or something. I don't know.
That's why I'm surprised the WWE hasn't done a tape, because they got all that early stuff, early Jim Duggan gold bathrobe and stuff.
They haven't done a full.
No, man, just the whole. It's
Sure, and they have the Mid-South stuff now, right?
Mid-South, they got the Georgia stuff. They got the Southwest. Only thing they probably don't have is Pensacola.
Do they have the convict?
Yeah, I don't know if they have the convict or not. I'd like to see a convict. I got some pictures. People that can't. I just had a little mustache, and I was, it was a great time in life. We're a bunch of young guys. We're living in Hawaii. Everybody was running every day. We're all tan. First found the Pakololo over there.
What's that?
Yeah, I'll have to show you.
Okay, that's how ignorant I am.
We'd run down to the what the hell, Waikiki, right? We were staying down in Ala Moana, inner city, Honolulu. We'd run down there and meet all the young girls. It was a good time. I had everything you own in a suitcase. Screw it, I quit.
Right.
No responsibilities. It was a fun time.
And then, but you said that your first full run was Georgia.
Yeah.
And that was before the 4 years. I'm interested. I'm targeting on this 4 years thing because I find it interesting.
Yeah, Georgia. Yeah, the Hawaii thing wasn't a full year. Yeah, Georgia was in the, and then I got down there.
That was in the. You see what I'm saying? Like the 4 year
Right.
gap that your parents or family gave you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was inside the 4 years.
Okay.
'Cause I got down there. Now I'm working full time, where I was working 7 nights a week, getting a paycheck.
And from that point, you're like, okay, like that. Did you? From that point, did you take away?
Actually, I don't know if it was as much a financial thing. It was now a lifestyle change for me. Coming from an extremely, extremely conservative guy. I didn't drink or smoke until I became a wrestler. I was 25 years old before I had a beer or anything. I was a very straight kid. And, all of a sudden I'm living with Buck Robley, Don Carson, and the Mongolian Stomper. I mean, it was that Falcon Rest Motel. It's like infamous in wrestling. All the wrestlers, a little 2-story motel right out close to the Atlanta airport. And everybody lived there.
Everyone.
Pretty much. I mean, the married guys didn't.
Sure. Well, I was going to ask, like, when was the first time?
Actually, Michael Hayes did live there because I thought, Michael Hayes, and of course, was in the office, and Buck Robley, right, is the head booker. So, I'm a young guy, I didn't have a car, and I got down there, and I had met a stripper. And I'm like, whoa, Big Jim Duggan, I got a girl that likes me.
Oh.
So I go in, I'm like, Buck, can I please borrow your car? I got to go, get the girl. He's like, yeah, okay. So boom, I go get the car, come back, man. Now we're leaving, go back to the club. And I'm backing up, and I'm like, boom, up on the curb. I'm like, stepping in again. The girl's like, stop. You're up against that other car. And I turn around. It's Michael Hayes' car. So I took the booker's car and ran into the number 2 guy's car. My first week in the territory.
Right.
So I go upstairs. I knock on Hayes' door. He opens the door, and he tells the story great. I knock on the door. He says, Duggan's there, all boo-boo lip, my lip hanging out. He goes, Mike, I wrecked your car. Mike Hayes is like, that's impossible. My car's in the parking lot. I go, yeah, I know.
Did you really wreck it?
Well, no, I put a dent.
You put a dent. Yeah.
All relative.
I was gonna say, like, you a lot of the stories you were talking about, there's these places that people live, and in wrestling, I mean, in the past, that was a thing. These places.
Yeah.
Like, when was the first time you were like, all right, I'm an adult, maybe I should
move away
find
from
a
the
house.
other wrestlers?
Yeah.
Louisiana, I bought my first house with Bill Watts. Yeah.
You bought. Wait. Okay, you didn't buy it with Bill Watts.
No,
for Bill Watts.
Working with Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how old were you then, if you don't mind?
Oh, geez, I don't even know, brother.
Your first house in your 30s and your late 20s?
Yeah, probably late 20s.
Late 20s.
Yeah.
Did you feel like a real grown-up?
Yeah, it was in Ball, Louisiana.
Yeah.
What a name for a town, huh? Ball. I said, it's always hard to ask girls to come visit. So it was like to come to Ball?
Yeah.
No. Bad joke.
I feel we have a kinship in the terms of, like, you still, I imagine you still feel like you're just a kid, yeah.
Well, I enjoy life, especially when everybody says all these wrestlers are dead. It's different when all your friends are gone, brother. And Gordy, Doc, Gino, now Pipe going. Mm-hmm. So I tell these guys, go ahead and enjoy life, brother. So I do the best. It's been a good business for me. I've been grateful. I've been very lucky. I've put 2 girls through school. I've been with my wife for 31 years. Never had to go to rehab for booze or drugs. Not that I didn't do a bunch of both, and no felony arrest. probably the most well-known misdemeanor arrest in the history of wrestling, but overall it's been a great business for me. And I beat the odds.
It's funny because I was talking with somebody the other day. It's like you're known as one of the most like clean-cut, fun-loving baby faces, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, but you're not afraid to say like, "Oh, I've done some stuff. I've been like I've had my drink. I've been around some weird shit." Yeah, but at the end of the day, people are still like, you get this ultimate pass. I feel. Does that make sense to you?
Well, I don't know. I think I just enjoy the people. I think that's what I can attribute my longevity to. I think it comes across when I'm out there with the people that I'm having a good time with. It's genuine. I enjoy the folks. I enjoy performing.
But like I've heard you say on record, like, yeah, dudes did steroids and stuff like that.
Yeah, I did gas. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I just it's
nobody knew what it was in the '80s. I was back in the day was Zahorian, right? The Pennsylvania State Athletic Commission doctor was passing the stuff out. So, I'm like, how bad can it be?
Right, yeah.
And now I'm also a cancer survivor, too, so you reap what you sow.
What was the cancer again?
Kidney cancer.
Was that in WCW?
That was when I was with WCW, yeah. Obviously, most terrifying time in my life.
I'd imagine. How did it come about?
I was passing blood. It wasn't blood in my urine. I was peeing blood.
So that's in...
And, I went to the doctor, and I'm like, well, I took a bad bump in the ring.
It's easy.
Of course, even my wife's going, you don't bump in the ring. So I'm like, well... And I'm joking with the doctor and the nurses, flirting, having a good time. And my buddy, the doc, comes in and goes, Jim, it's cancer. And I sat back in the chair, put everything else in perspective. All of a sudden, nothing else was important once you throw a health issue in there. Your work, your money, boom. I'm thinking, just let me survive this. I didn't care about going back to wrestling. They didn't want my daughters to grow up without a dad. That was the main concern. So at the time I spent between my diagnosis and my surgery was less than a week. I spent in my girls' rooms. They were little babies, young girls, 3 and 4, crying and praying. I was terrified.
And how did it just surgery or?
Grace of God, boom, they cut me open and all my cancer was encapsulated inside my kidney. So boom, I only have one kidney now.
Okay.
But no chemo, no radiation therapy.
Just got rid of that kidney.
They lost the kidney. So early detection saves life. So, I had a Hacksaw Jim Duggan celebrity golf tournament for 3 years down in Florida with the American Cancer Society. Had Brian Adams came, played in it, Knobs, mooned the crowd. I'm like, Knobs, not the right place to
He's like, every place is the right place.
Yeah. But
are you any good at golf?
No, I do a lot of golf tournaments, so I do, especially with the NFL, because I'm a member of the NFL Retired Players Association.
You barely even...
But I got paid for 1 year.
Okay.
That's the criteria. If you get paid for 1 year, you can join the union. You don't get a pension. You need 4 years to get a pension, but you can join. There's a lot of guys, because a lot of guys are in my situation. Most guys don't play 4 years.
What are the benefits of the union?
You get breaks on insurance and free golf and, little gimmick stuff. The Players Convention, I've been to a bunch of them. You see all the top Peyton Manning. Met Y.A. Tittle back in the day. I met at a Players Convention.
So worth it to join?
Yeah.
Why not, right?
It's especially when I was living in Florida, because they have the most active chapter in the NFL is Orlando, which doesn't have a football team. It's surprising, but so many players. But they have golf tournaments all the time on these, elaborate, $500 each golf things, and they bring me out, and they bid on the celebrities, and that's how they raise the money to play with a group.
Gotcha.
So they're like the so-and-so Miami Dolphins, hello. So-and-so Washington Redskins, hello. Professional wrestler, Hexer, oh, come on, it sounds like a library in here. And the golf site, about 2/3 of the people don't know who the hell I am anyway.
Right, but the ones that bid on you are the ones that want to have fun.
I always go in top 3. I mean, with heavy duty names. Years ago it was.
I don't even know.
Yeah. Anyway, Shula and Nick Bonikoff, I think the kid. Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. Thing that made me think of Shula. I was the honorary chairman of the World Sailfish Championship in Key West. Other honorary chairman, Don Shula, Johnny Bench, and General Schwarzkopf. I'm like, what's wrong with this picture? I'm standing here.
You're hanging out with those guys?
Yeah. Oh, I know Johnny pretty well.
Yeah.
I know him and his wife. I've been doing it for 10 years. They called me years ago, and they're like, Hacksaw, you want to do a charity thing? And I'm like, God, I do a bunch of charity, brother. I've been doing the variety telethon here in Des Moines, Iowa for 15 years. Raised $4 million last year in March. Huge telethon. So I'm like, well, I do a lot of charity work. What do you guys got? And they're like, well, it's a fishing tournament. I'm like, well, I'm not really a big fisherman, and we're living in Florida. And they're like, well, it's the World Sailfish Championship in Key West for a week. My wife's got me by the throat. I'm like, okay, we'll make that one.
I'm sure you've done a lot of that kind of odd stuff. Did you do Wrestle Vessel? Did you do any of those?
The Bruise Cruise. Yeah, I've done those. Well, they were fun, man. All the young kids, because I have fun with the piece of everybody. Look at Hacksaw playing with the kids in the pool.
Yeah.
Of course, they're drowning my old ass. I'm poking them in the eye trying to get out.
Were you on an episode of like Harry and the Hendersons or something? Was that right?
Harry and the Hendersons.
What was that? But that was the TV show.
Yeah, it was a TV show.
Do you remember what TV shows you must have done other stuff also?
Not much. I haven't done much acting. Did a lot of Nickelodeon stuff, a lot of the ad-lib stuff. But,
Did you? Tell me about that.
With
the kids?
Did like Super Sloppy Double Dare.
Get out of here.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Fun?
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. Like they had the green goo, and you're supposed to reach in and feel around and find something.
The flag,
I dive in it, If you're going to be a wrestler, be a wrestler.
Yeah.
That's like when Vince Russo was trying to push me out of my contract here at WCW. They call me, they bring me up, and they're like, Hacksaw, we're going to make you the janitor of the WCW. I'm like, well, that's cool.
And his idea was to get you to quit?
Well, he never came out and said that, but that was the feeling I was getting.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were trying to humiliate me. And they're like, well, you're going to have to clean Russo's toilet with a toothbrush. I'm like, yeah, cool, man, great, So the time came to shoot the vignette. I took a Diet Coke, I poured in the toilet. And instead of standing back like this, I got my hair in the toilet. Oh, I'm cleaning the toilet. Water splashing everywhere and made it work. People loved it.
Yeah. It almost gave you a right?
Oh, yeah. I found the U.S. title, or no, what was it, a TV title in the trash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're also of that. You've been in it for so long. And I know I think you're a guy who'll just like, yeah, I'm in for whatever. I'm wrestling.
You're giving me my TV time. I know how to get my stuff over, brother. Yeah.
Who did you? I know that. Was there somebody that you took that from? Almost. There had to have been someone who. Not the idea of, hey, you have TV time, make the most of it.
Yeah, well, that's pretty well the business.
Was
at
there
this level, yeah, you better know what's going on at this level.
Was there someone that first kind of like you realized and that understood that was doing that?
No, I always just felt sometimes that I wasn't, ever since the bus with the Sheik, and even before that, a lot of times I feel people don't like my character. The wrestling fans, the
hardcore fans,
the guys that want to see, I'm said, even though I got an amateur background and could probably beat 90% of the guys in an amateur match, my character, people say, what's your favorite move, Hacksaw? I said, well, I kick and punch.
Yeah, I'm real good at it.
That's why I say, well, Hogan is the best pro wrestler ever. Okay, he holds the ear and the crowd goes nuts. That's great.
Pro wrestling. Okay, I do want to talk about one thing because my era is 80s WWF as a child, right? And I'd like to know. I'd like to know about jumping into that bus with Vince. Like, how was that transition? Was it something you were scared about? Were you looking forward to it?
Well, yeah, we were all down in Mid-South, and we were a close group down there. Junkyard Dog, and he came up for WrestleMania 1. Dog did. And that bumped me up to the top babyface spot. When Dog left, I bumped up to number 1. Then Jake came up for WrestleMania 2, and Jake, it was in my wedding, one of my good friends, and he's like, you need to get up here, man. So I came up for WrestleMania 3. DiBiase was down there in Mid-South. He goes, well, I can't come up to New York, Junkyard Dog, Jake the Snake, Hacksaw, Duggan, Ted DiBiase. So he comes up. He gets the best gimmick of anybody, though, the $1 million deal.
Yeah.
So,
well, what was it like when? So, did you go and have a meeting with Vince? Did you just?
No, I approached them. They didn't approach me. A lot of people said, "Well, they called me. They didn't call me. I'm kind of the black sheep anyway." Right. So
so you threw out
called
feelers.
them, and they sent me a letter and said to give them notice. They would like to bring me in, but to do it the right way and tell Bill Watts, very business
Were you scared about sending a letter and it getting back to Bill Watts if they didn't want you? Does that make
No,
sense?
because I was pretty strong there in the Mid-South.
So you knew you could just do whatever.
Yeah, and I thought that was kind of my heyday. I thought I was, wasn't the top dog, but I was one of the, guys that could find a place to work. And there was a lot of places to work too.
So, like in your mind, if you sent that letter to Vince and he said no thanks, when Bill Watts found out about it and he was like, "Well, screw this guy," you could go work anywhere else. There would be so.
Yeah, I don't think Bill would do it, but he might have. Who knows? Yeah, back then he might have. But I think Bill would be enough business to realize I was, box office, and he'd keep me. It's like they'll say, "They'll never take Hogan back." Never say never.
Right. And then I remember the vignettes, the tough. I guess the tough guy. It was kind of your vignettes into WWF.
Yeah.
And
well, kind of the working man. I think the first thing I did for WWF was on a forklift. They had me driving a forklift around, and they pushed me pretty strong. And at WrestleMania 3, I came down. I hit Nikolai and the Sheik with the 2x4, and of course, that was a huge push. I got juice on TV. Nikolai, anytime Nikolai would sing the national anthem, the Russian national anthem, I'd run down and cut the cord. You have tough nowadays, right? Cordless mics. Yeah. I used to run down. I'd cut the cord on Nikolai.
Cut the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Turn the Wi-Fi off.
But and then of course the bus just lucky it didn't kill my career, but it really hamstringed.
So if I would say were you ever not upset or the way you worked your way up to number one in Mid-South? I'd assume wanted to work your way up, and you think that bus is just kind of pull all the brakes on it.
Yeah,
everything.
Yeah, I was lucky to recover. I think it would have killed a lot of guys' careers, especially at that time, man. And it's still one of the best known. I still get it. Last night, somebody was saying that one of the fans, they kind of give me a shot about it. But and the worst thing about it is people think me and the Sheik are friends. God, we're not friends
at that time, or
not even that time. I gave him a ride that one day.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I guess you can't think about that your whole life, though, right?
But it's not the worst thing that's happened to me. No.
Oh.
So it's
not even your buddy, just a one day.
And just a one day ride, yeah. And I had the weed and he had the coke, and I don't very seldom drink beer. It's well known that I don't drink beer, but he bought a 6-pack of St. Pauli Girl beer. He said, "Well, it's a hot afternoon. We're on our way to Asbury Park." He said, "You have a beer?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay." And we smoked one of my doobies, and we're drinking the beer, and I'm living in Louisiana with drive-through daiquiri huts. But a cop saw me drinking the beer, and that had just become illegal in New Jersey. I wasn't drunk and driving. I was just sipping on a beer and driving, which is illegal. They pulled me over, and they smelled the weed, pulled me out, and hooked me up. And then the Sheik had 3 grams of cocaine in 3 separate containers. So he had a felony arrest. He had to go in front of a judge. Mm-hmm. I got an appearance ticket.
Right.
But the press killed it. It was, coke, marijuana, Duggan, Sheik. It was painted us with the same brush.
And I don't know, I guess I don't know mentally where you stand on that. But is that a thing that weighed on your mind a long time, or did you?
I had trouble with it. Sure. I mean, I went from the literal, penthouse to the shit house, from WrestleMania 3 to Vince McMahon, hanging the phone up on me, telling me to turn in my airplane tickets and go home. Slam the phone down. Yeah, it was
And over the years, did you make peace with it? Have you made peace with it?
Yeah. It's like I said, it's not the worst thing. It was harder on my family, actually, than me. My dad was still chief of police,
Gotcha,
and the TV cameras came in. What about your kid getting popped for cocaine and marijuana? And that's before I talked to him. Mm-hmm. So he didn't know, And he chewed my ass a little bit, but then my whole family rallied around me. I went back to Louisiana. I went on a bender, about a 2-week. I blew it out of a rabbit, ran through my backyard. I'd blow it in 2 with a shotgun, I was, and my wife was my girlfriend then,
Yeah.
And I was we lived on Azalea Lane and had a beautiful house I bought from Bill Dundee. And all these azalea bushes lined the road. And I went down, and I'm so mad. I cut down a big pine tree with a double-headed axe. Wow. The pine tree goes, eek, falls across all the azaleas on the first house in the way in Azalea Lane. I'm out there screaming, terrifying the neighborhood. But finally I realized, okay, you got to recover after this and move on.
Yeah.
So I called Dusty down at WCW and set a meeting up with Dusty. But before I flew to Atlanta, Bruce Pritchard called me and said, just, hey, lay low. We're going to bring you back.
Okay. Nice.
But never put the gas. I mean, they kept me okay,
Right.
Never
Gave the Rockets to the...
Right, but I'd be pretty much everybody but the guys that went on to Hogan, which was a good little spot.
Yeah,
Not everybody's a lead singer in the band. We're not all quarterbacks. I've always been a lineman, so I'm content in my spot.
And you've been into, you're still at it now. You're still wrestling. You're in the ring.
Wrestled last time I just saw you over in Europe. I wrestled that night in Scotland.
Yeah. And do you have, is there a timeline for you?
No, people joke. I said, I'm going to get a walker made out of 2x4.
Right.
I enjoy it. I love it. I'm not, at this point in my life, like my one daughter's done with college. My other one's almost out. Yeah, my wife and I never was a big gold chain Rolex watch guy. So I haven't been divorced 4 or 5 times. Just spread my money out, saved my bread a little bit. And enjoying it.
Is this kind of like is it softball for you? Kind of like, hey, I'm going on the weekend, going to go do the wrestling.
It's great. It comes. This has been a beautiful tour. It's been 3 days in Cedar Rapids. An hour drive yesterday and an hour back. 2 hours, same hotel, good TV, nice restaurant, air conditioning. The wife's asking me, when are you going back on the road?
Yeah, that's what I meant. I'd imagine it'd be like that, almost like. Right. Hey, you probably...
and I just saw you over in Scotland. I was just over there for almost 3 weeks. Brought my wife with me. We did England and Scotland. Last year we did New Zealand and Australia. I mean, because there's few of us left, bad to say. I mean, even fewer of my generation of guys that still get in the ring.
Right.
Folks say, Hacksaw, you still wrestle? I said, well, I still get in the ring. I don't know if you call it wrestling, but that's... even back when I was going back to the Performance Center, I can't teach the kids backdrops and stuff, but I said, even at 61 years old, I have no physical attributes left, but I can still entertain a crowd. I can still get the people up. There's more to this business than taking bumps. And I think that's kind of lost.
Yeah. No, man, you're proof that you're still rocking. It's so cool, man.
Well, you can't have a whole show of that. You got to have something for everybody. You got a pretty boy, a masked guy, a couple good-looking girls, got an old-timer, you got a couple flyers. It's a marketing idea.
And I guess on the end here, was there a guy that you remember kind of being like the guy that you are almost to me? Like when I come on a show and I see Jim Duggan, who's been around forever and he's still rocking it. When you were a little younger, was there guys like that?
Yeah, well, Hanson and Brody probably, I guess. And they were friends. I drove Stan when I was in New York as a young kid.
Okay.
And then we were in Japan together. But yeah, and little did I realize back then, because I was so new to wrestling, how special it was that I was opened up to this huge gift was given to me that Fritz von Erich said, come on down to the Sportatorium and hit the ropes. And Gary Hart said, well, here's a pair of trunks. And it just fell. The dominoes started to fall.
Yeah.
And the grace of God, boom, it's been beautiful for me.
Amazing. You are on the internet. Are you using Twitter, right?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter.
What's your Twitter again?
Official Hacksaw.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what other stuff do you have?
I got my Facebook, but I'm not even sure what that. I think that's just Hacksaw Duggan.
Right.
And there's a web page out there I'm still kind of working on, but
and you're a Pro Wrestling Tees man.
Pro Wrestling Tees.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have great shirts.
Oh, and of course, the blockbuster movie. I'm sure a lot of you folks are dying for the sequel to come out. Pro Wrestlers versus Zombies.
That's right.
Worst movie in the world.
Oh.
They said it was one of the top 5 zombie movies of the year.
There was only.
They only made 3 zombies. You knew where I was going. You've been around the boys too long.
Right. And then, so if people do
Hacksaw, the Jim Duggan story, the book.
You got a book?
Yes.
Where do they get that?
Anywhere. Yeah.
Anywhere.
Yeah, it's on online at Amazon. All those people.
And you carry it to the show. And
I got a few with me at the show.
You'll sign them up. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's a positive look at wrestling. Everybody knows the Scott Hall stories. Everybody knows the train
You're
wrecks.
a positive dude, man.
It's been a good business for me. So a different look at wrestling.
Cool. Amazing. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure, Cole. But you know what you got to do before you leave, brother? Give me one, kid. Ho!
I did.
That's a pretty good ho.
I did. Oh, thank you very much.
I mean, the one out there.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Great to have him on the show for a one-on-one. He was great in Miami, but even better sitting down with him while we were in Iowa. I sat down while I was in Iowa with Jim Duggan. I wear the pro wrestling t-shirt a lot with him on it, and I think every time I see him, he always thinks I'm wearing his shirt, but it's the pro wrestling t-shirt. So basically means you're iconic, buddy. I think you know it. Jim Duggan, thanks for coming on the show. Before we get out of here, let's get into some plugs and
upcoming events.
All right, the best way that you can support, again, ColtMerch.com, DigitalColt.com, Twitter and Instagram at Colt Cabana, Facebook /AOW Podcast and /Colt Cabana. ColtWrestling at gmail.com is my very public email. CutMyPromo.com is my YouTube show. Check out my YouTube channel. ColtCabana.com is where I have a P.O. box. Send me some snail mail. Love getting some shit in the mail. Upcoming this Sunday, September 27th, Port Hanume. Free tickets. It's a free show. HollywoodWrestling.com. Saturday, October 3rd in the afternoon, Monroe, New Jersey. LegendsOfTheRing.com. And at night, the big show, Union, New Jersey. ProWrestlingSyndicate.com. Saturday, October 10th, Enfield, Connecticut. Us versus Them Wrestling.com. October 16th through November 8th, I'm going to Japan touring for Noah.co.jp. Friday and Saturday, November 13th and 14th, Philadelphia and New York, Queens, New York, houseofhardcore.net. And then Sunday, November 15th, Toronto, Canada. In the afternoon, 2 o'clock, doing a live podcast. And the show starts at 4 o'clock, alpha-1wrestling.com. And Saturday, November 28th, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, WrestleCade.com. That is the show for this week. Hey, you at home, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Now you know it comes to you every week automatically, thanks to Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I just like saying the whole thing. Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Thank you kindly. Thanks to Cable Guy Jeff and Stu Stone, Kid Russell, Matt Jenkins on the music, Dane Miller with some tech. Let's thank our sponsors, highspots.com. Hundreds of full-length titles available on download or purchase. All the $5 wrestling movies, AMA knee pads, gear, wrestling ring. You need a ring? High Spots will hook you up. OneHourTees.com. They are the ones that run ProWrestlingTees.com, where you can support your favorite independent wrestler directly. Money goes directly to them. Huge support system. ProWrestlingTees.com and TweakedAudio.com/Colt. The earbuds that I use get over 30% off and free shipping just because you listen to this show. This show that is finished. I should have done this one July 4th. This should have been the July 4th episode, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, but it wasn't. It was the episode where I came back from Russia. That makes sense. USA, USA, USA. One of my favorite memories of Jim Duggan is that Royal Rumble that was free on USA Network. You guys remember that? Dino Bravo did the bench press. Hacksaw Jim Duggan won the Royal Rumble. Exciting times. You know what else is exciting? Me leaving you and you anticipating 1 week till we meet again on next Thursday. All right, guys, this has been The Art of Wrestling. For Colt Cabana, I'm Colt Cabana. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mark Summers, and welcome to the most excitingly sloppy event in wrestling history. It's Super Slop-A-Mania 2. Things have gotten somewhat out of hand here between Hacksaw Jim and Mr. Perfect. What gives, guys? Gentlemen, there's only one way to settle this.
You don't mean...
That's right, a super sloppy Hawaiian ring toss. On your mark. Get set.